co-host, Lynne McTaggart.
Welcome to Unbiased and on the Fence. I'm Shane, joined today by my special guest, Eileen, special co-host, I should say. How are you, Eileen?
Thank you. Hello. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, so we're talking book stuff. We're trying to figure all this out, but we're doing it. We're
doing it.
Through it.
We're doing it with you guys because I know three people. I know Atsuko. I saw
John Benny got it.
John Benny got it. I saw a photo of it in his hands, and Nancy. I know those three for sure. And a bunch of you got it.
Candace Crawl Goldman also.
Awesome.
She got it.
My family ordered it straight away because I said I would love to give you copies, but then we can't get verified reviews.
Ronnie got hers.
Yeah. Dustin.
Oh, yeah,
Dustin got his.
I'm sorry if I forget you guys. There's so many of you guys. I love you all the same, but whoever pops in my head is who I remember.
That's because you talk to so many people in a week. Like last night's show was so cool. I saw it like in the middle of the night because I fell asleep at 9, woke up at 1, couldn't sleep, and listened to your show until 5 in the morning. I don't know if you saw my little comments coming in at like 3, 4, 5.
As you were watching it, yeah. I want to do that too when I watch stuff back. It's like I want to chat, but it's not really there. So.
I put like 2 or 3 comments down. But you guys are like our team because not only did you make us #1 in our category for the weekend that you guys ordered.
What category was that? I couldn't remember for anything.
Unexplained mysteries.
Unexplained mysteries.
Yeah.
What did I say? Unsolved mysteries?
Yes, you were really close. I think you got it right. I think you were close enough because that's a subcategory of like spirituality. Yeah, that's Shane's layout.
We got our pictures on the back.
Oh, look. Our
so
pictures. Cool. We're so silly. We're just like kids, at the fair. This is like Christmas for us, getting the book. So you guys are the team because you officially have proof copies. You have copies with mistakes in them, which should make your copies very valuable in the future if it's like a stamp, right?
Well, it's not missing anything. That's the good thing. You just got some extras in there. You got some angel numbers thrown in from the universe. So.
Yeah, tell them about those 4s, because I thought they were angel numbers.
Right, so I got this mouse here that's a custom mouse, and you can, it's got all these different buttons on it. Well, one of them you can, it's got presets on it. So if you have it on the wrong preset, if you accidentally hit a button, it will throw characters in there, whatever it's preset for. So if it's not on the default setting. Well, mine was not on the default setting. So when I scrolled the mouse wheel to go down the page, I would bump it to the side and it would add 4s in there.
4s. So like on one page in the middle of the word chemtrail, there was a 4 in the middle of it. And I'm like, that's an angel. There's an angel telling me something about this word. And then on the next page, it was in a quote where it said like the Mandela Effect, like slaps your face awake. You're like, what? And before the quote, it was 4, 4, 4, 4. There were 4 4s. And I'm like, wow, we got angel numbers thrown in the book.
Thank goodness we caught it before it got too bad. So it's only towards the beginning, I guess you said?
Yeah, it was just in my section. But I haven't really looked through Paulo's and yours. I did check Vanessa's and mine, and I checked about authors, and I checked testimonies. So that's like
Who was the caller last night? Was it Stacy?
Tracy, Maria, Ronnie, and Jose.
She was the one that called in because of the 4s in the phone number. So
I know.
It's tying together with last night's show and her 4s.
I know, it is. I'm like,
so I hope she got one of these special 4s books.
Yeah, copies. I'm just getting, I loved her call, new person, brave, straight in on the phone line. And I love the old regulars calling in too. Not old. Yeah. Ronnie, I'm not calling you old. You're like the same age as me. So anyway, you guys have the proof copies because last year when you downloaded the template on Amazon, print on demand?
No, that's what I was saying. I just downloaded it a month ago when I started putting it into the format. So the file I just got like right before you said it.
That is so weird because What happened in September is Amazon let go of its print on demand service, threw it over to its subsidiary, which it owns, which is called KDP, right? Kindle Direct Publishing.
Mm-hmm.
They raised the price for publishing, right? So it's costing us more now than before, which is okay. And they slightly changed the format. So when we uploaded, right, after doing a visual check, KDP was like, oh, the size of the book is off. And you're like, how is that possible? I'm using your template. Oh, the graphics off. How is that possible? We're using your template. So Shane fixed it on the spot and slightly stretched things and filled things. And that means that a few layout things are different in the proof. Like the table of content page numbers are off by 2.
They're all off by 2?
They're all off by 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we had added pages in the beginning, and it was Roman numerals, but it still changed the regular numbers then.
It still changed the numbers. And we were dealing with a slightly different template.
Right.
You know, so I'm like, this is a learning curve because we self-published. The 1111 publishing company is ours. So,
but I must say that you're an editor. So, like, do you have the one that you circled with the extra that needs the space in there and stuff? What I'm saying is most people won't even
They wouldn't notice it, would they?
No,
okay,
no one will notice it.
But you know how this makes stamps valuable? If we become very famous, having a book full of minor errors could actually be worth something. Not that you should part with it. Not that if they offer you $1 million, you should let it go. Okay, so this is how we do. Can you see or not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me go big.
There it is. So because we have 4 mini books and 1 big book, we didn't do chapters, we did sections, and we would put a title for the section. We would put it in the middle instead of right margin, left margin. We put it center margin and bold and capitals like a title.
Mm-hmm. With a space between each one.
With a space above and a space below. So that's like in the whole book. Now, some of you guys who are, I don't know, what word should I use that's kind for anal retentive? Where is it? But basically, people who are real perfectionists by nature will be reading along and they'll go, whoa, this looks different. Most people will just pass the page and not even notice, right?
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, even when you were showing me, I'm like, what's wrong with it? What's wrong with it? And it's hard to tell because there's one word down there, so it gives it the illusion that it's got the space, but that doesn't
in 270 pages, this only happened once.
So it should be centered, and it should have a space above and beneath, right?
Okay. So as I'm flipping through, I'm like, whoa, where did that come from?
Right.
Because
so you noticed it, but I bet you 80% of the people or more.
Yeah, I bet you 80% wouldn't.
Just go right over it and never even think a thing.
And not even think a thing.
Even though it stands out as different than all the other ones,
different than all the other ones that you've read. But I mean, it's only on page 29. So maybe if it was towards the end of the book, everybody would notice because they'd be so used to that space above and below. So
it's minor stuff. Just I didn't want people to worry. It's like, you know, most of the stuff you won't even notice, and it's extra stuff, so you're not missing anything.
But there's some angel numbers in there, and there's some extra spacing because I'm not a layout person. And when I got to the bottom of a page, because I'm editing, I would, and if there was just one line, I would go like, space, 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 and bump it down. And Shane's like, no, you have to do page break because if the template is even slightly different, it will totally offset, and those 3 lines will show up somewhere. Right?
Then you could actually throw off the table of contents too. So we're thankful that didn't happen. Because what happens is if you I threw enough page breaks in there that even if you didn't here and there, every time I threw one in, there's a sort of a buffer there because this can move down the page until it goes onto the next page before it will affect the rest of the book. But you've got
275 pages. So some of my return might have set off the pages. Right. The template definitely set it off. The mouse set it off with the 4s.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
So we have an almost perfect copy, but I haven't had time to go through because it's such a long book, which is great. Yours or
sneak peek of some of the artwork.
Now Shane did those images. Isn't that cool? Tell them how you did that because they look like the real painting, like a photograph.
Right. It's just a matter of photoshopping, using an image as a guide. Here's a
Those look like you drew those.
right,
They're,
just a
they're like
silhouette.
silhouettes.
Mm-hmm.
And show them the really big ones too.
Let's see. We have the.
American Gothic.
Here we go. This one's nice because it's actually 2-page. What?
Yeah, look at that. They're just like almost identical except for the way she's looking, the direction. And you did that. You shifted her eyes, but they remained identical. It's not like you can tell.
Right.
It actually looks like the painting is moving its eyes when you go from page to page.
Yeah.
It's like, just move your eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was looking again at Vanessa's graphic, and Paulo's got super cool graphics of Mandelbrot zooms. How awesome is that? And I was
here's that one of
yeah, I'm almost thinking I wish that was a whole page and bigger, because
you think we could turn it sideways? Or I guess we're allowed to do that. Is that unconventional?
In the future, when we re-upload it, we could do that. That graphic, if you show it to the screen again, I'm thinking Clever Clogs Vanessa actually figured out like the most obvious cause of the Mandela effect. So lift it up a little, just up a little.
Well, your camera is different. Yeah. So it's perfect.
So you've got approaching planet X, which NASA is calling the 9th planet or planetary system, possibly with or without Nemesis, which would be a sun. Yeah. Approaching our sun, and the sun and the planet, the system changing the electromagnetic field. So the Schumann spikes and goes from 7.7 to 100, 140. And then let's see, what has she got next on the graphic? Schumann resonance affected by the magnetic field. And then that would also change the brain waves.
Yeah.
And she's got proof from scientists saying that it would, that the Schumann resonance interacts with brain waves. And then if your brain waves are spiking at 100 to 140, which is the gamma, the super excited, it would make sense that you would see the Mandela effect, as well as other things like ghosts and, what else? Elementals or whatever's out there that's always been invisible. If your brain waves are firing at over 100 hertz per minute, you're going to see a heck of a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's we just hit some higher numbers than ever, didn't we?
I heard 140. What did you hear? Yeah,
something like that. Because it's hardly ever peaks. The what do you call it? The amplitude of it, not the frequency. It's
she's got the hertz peaking, not just the amplitude, and she goes into the difference between the amplitude and the hertz.
Okay.
So I'm not clear. And I'm never clear, because those graphs that we read do not tell us whether the graph represents hertz or amplitude. They just don't tell you on the graph.
Well, the ones we look at on the Russian site shows you on the left, those are the hertz. So it ranges from 0 to 50 on the heart math one, and 0 to 40 on the Russian one, or vice versa. I can't remember one of them. And they go opposite of each other. So 0's at the bottom on one and 0's at the top on the other one. So you have to kind of get used to that. But it's still, the range is left and right. Now, the brightness of it is the amplitude. So
it's how loud it is.
Exactly. So when you see it, it's mainly at the top, and then as it gets louder, it moves down. The amplitude across the whole range, the frequencies aren't shifting. Maybe it's including higher frequencies.
She's got the frequency shifting too. Ones. Yeah, with scientists.
Right, because if they were actually shifting, we would actually see those lines on the Schumann thing actually bend, not go straight. They stay straight because the hertz is staying steady, but they're getting brighter. You know what I mean?
Oh, because according to the one she's using, it never stays steady. It always, the average is 7.8. It's up at 10. It's down at 6. It's never steady. It's always a range, but now the ranges are spiking. But I honestly don't think that we have graphs that represent that yet. Do you know what I mean? I don't think there's a place we can go to see that.
Right. Well, on our Tuesday show, I have where you can go. There's a link below that you can go and actually look at the actual amplitude on a different site. It just doesn't show it on that one. It's sort of just off of brightness. So you can tell that when it's white, it's peaking, and then when it's black, it's lower. And then like blue, I think.
And then where would you go to see a graph on hertz?
Well, the
That's hard,
hertz,
isn't it?
that's the hertz that we normally look at. The hertz is the left and the right, and then the brightness is the amplitude. If you go
Yeah.
to the other side, you can actually see a graph that shows you the highest hertz that were picked up. You
Okay.
know what I mean?
So I'd like to do that. I'm going to like spend a couple days when I have time. It's always like, when I have time free. And I'm just going to look at all the graphs available that show hertz because I think we're really used to the amplitude charts, and everybody uses those all over YouTube as a hertz chart because that's what they think it is. They don't all see amplitude because it doesn't say amplitude. It
Yeah.
doesn't explain it. And then we can see how high has the hertz actually gone as a peak.
Yeah, let me.
And maybe the amplitude is 140, and maybe the hertz peaked at 40 or 50, like Dr. Joe Dispenza said, and she quotes him in the book.
Okay, here it is on the side here. See, this is 0 to 40 hertz, and then I guess that's hertz in Russian. And
Okay,
then
so is that 40.0?
that's 4.0. So here's the main one, this green line.
And that's the one everybody's used to seeing.
Right. But each one of these are all Schumann. It's actually Schumann resonances. So there's, a series of them, and they're all like equally spaced
So the ones
on
that are
down.
white could possibly go above 40 because they're white. You don't know where they end if you
Well,
go down.
this chart doesn't even go past 40. So as you see, like you can see here how when it starts to spike, it spikes at the bottom of the scale,
Yep.
and then as it travels down this way. So we know it went beyond 40 at this
Yeah.
point.
But we
You
don't
know,
know where it
we don't know
trailed
how
off,
far though.
like
No.
60, and of course, gamma rays start at 40, don't they? Aren't gamma rays 40 to 100 in the brain?
I thought it was 25. I could be wrong though.
I've
I'm not
never
sure.
memorized them. We have people in the community who have memorized them because there's so many. There's delta and alpha and theta.
Right.
What else am I forgetting besides gamma?
Alpha, delta,
There's beta, beta,
alpha,
theta,
theta.
delta, alpha, and gamma. There's 5.
Hmm.
Gamma's the super high one, where, Lynne McTaggart's research says if you get into gamma wave in your meditation, you go from low, super low to super high. That's when you really start manifesting fast.
Hmm.
It's kind of like a magical brain wave.
Right. Okay, let me stop. Come back to you here. There we go.
So, Mandela Effect, friend or foe. You and I talk about it, but we never say the name of the title. And then most people in here know it. And then other people are like, what? Huh? What book are they talking about? Which title? So, Mandela Effect, friend or foe.
Yeah, links are in the description. Find the
Oh,
one
yeah,
for
we
your
got to put
area.
links in every video description, don't we?
Yeah.
Um, it was really cool to hear from people who are reading it that they're enjoying it. I'm so glad because part of my worry was that our community has heard all this stuff from us for so long, for years now, but it doesn't seem to be like boring them to hear it in a more scientific way where
Right.
you show the notes to the science that supports it, which is what we did, which is why it took us 20 months to write this instead of like 6,
Exactly.
right?
Revising and revising, considering more things, adding to it, and
Researching, looking up more science, going, darn, like I saw this scientific study in 2016 from the University of Wisconsin in a genuine science journal that showed every planet heating up in our solar system. And then when we were writing the book, I could not find that online. It had been cleaned. Online had been cleaned of that for, I think, personally political reasons, because it doesn't support climate change. If every planet is heating up, then they can't say, hey, you humans, stop driving around, right?
unless they're sneaking up, maybe the elites are driving SUVs around on Venus, right?
Yeah, black triangles, flying their black triangles all over the solar system now. So I think, there might be a reason that one's super hard to find, but I'm sure if I was at a university library, I could probably look it up in a real scientific reference book that is not available online,
Yeah.
you know,
Unless it got Mandela.
unless it got Mandela, which we have a Mandela effect in the book, guys. When we started writing this book 20 months ago, we had moved from the Sagittarius arm to the Orion spur. Oh, my glasses are like shining. And when we uploaded the book, I double checked it online everywhere on how to spell spur. I'm like, is it SPUR or SPURR? It's gone. It's whitewashed. That's how thorough AI is. If you tell AI to take out spur, every reference to it online, boom, it probably does it in 60 seconds.
But any image that it's in, which I'm sure there's lots
Yeah.
of diagrams, it wouldn't have been able to
Photographed
affect that.
image would not be able to be
Not
removed because
human
it's
AI.
embedded in the image.
Now, whatever's causing the Mandela effect, that's no problem, because whatever that is outside of
What if it
this
deletes the
reality.
image? Because it catches that spur is in the image and goes, boom, image gone. I don't know. But everywhere I looked, we've moved from the Sagittarius arm to the Orion arm. And I'm telling you, if you look at the photograph, the artwork that you did, Shane, in the book, do you want to pull it up?
Yeah,
You
let me
can
actually open
see
it.
that Orion is a spur because it comes off the Sagittarius arm. It is not an arm by itself, and it does not go very far. So it is definitely like a spur, which would be like, this is going to sound stupid, but a puppy nail. You know how puppy has a nail way up here on their arm? Well,
Right.
that's how the Orion spur was. It was just a little outcropping from the Sagittarius arm.
Exactly. Let's see here. We'll
He'll show you a picture of it because he did this one too, this graphic.
This might be hard to see.
Oh, I don't know. It's pretty easy to read. Perseus arm, outer arm, Orion spur. See how short it is? It's like, meow. And then if you go down further, you can see if you follow what the Orion spur is on, all the way to the bottom, it says Sagittarius arm, which is where they used to put us. Neil deGrasse Tyson and Carl Sagan.
Now they actually flipped this whole diagram on its head, upside down.
Yeah, put it upside down maybe and show people how they're showing it on NASA.
So Sagittarius arm will be on the top, and we're now located at the bottom. They always show us located at the bottom.
Yes.
So as we've moved, the whole thing got flipped. So we're still shown at the bottom.
It definitely got flipped.
Way. Yeah.
But technically, we moved. They always showed us at the bottom where that nice little pin is, where you put it. Right. That's where they said we were. Yeah. Now they're saying we're on this tiny wee little Orion spur.
And to make it not so weird, they just flip it around. And it looks like we're still at the bottom.
Still looks like you're at the bottom left. Very clever. Very clever. But now the spur is no longer a spur. They're calling it an arm. And I'm like, gosh, 20 months ago, spur was everywhere. I mean, I didn't invent that word. I'd never really heard the word spur except for like Texans who wear spurs. And it's always plural, right? Cowboys?
That's strange. That's so
Cowboys?
Strange. Cowboy spurs, yeah. That's what I think of. It's kind of just sticking out there,
Yeah. So we didn't make up the word, but it's gone now.
Excuse me. So
what
definitely,
else?
When we first looked at that, I remember, who was it? Bluebeard I used to watch? I don't know. Is he
Bluebeard and oh my God, the other, Bluebeard. Bluebeard did the moving one.
Yeah, now he was hilarious. I enjoyed it. He goes,
he was so
the next time I make it back to my home in the galaxy, I'm going to build a Faraday cage around my bed so I can stay home, And I'm thinking.
Yeah, because he goes, we traveled 80,000 miles across the galaxy.
Light years, yeah.
Light years. We've traveled 80,000 light years, and a light year is like 286,000 miles, right? Or 236,000?
That's how far you can travel at the speed of light in a year.
Yeah.
So, gosh.
But entanglement, there is no distance. It's the speed of thought. And that is, what's the word? It's outside of time. So you can't even measure it because it's instantaneous.
And I feel like that's one of those anomalies with reality. You got quantum entanglement. You got all these weird sort of things that are unexplained mysteries. And the one thing that will answer all of that is if this is some kind of consciousness simulation. Then
yes, and we do kind of address it. Oh my God, I did a paragraph on it. Oh, Spirit Walker does an entire section on the simulation.
Right.
Yeah, he's big on the simulation and really kind of explains how, player A on timeline A can jump into player B's timeline. Mm-hmm. And have complete memories of timeline A up to that point and think everything's different around him or her because of the jump.
Yeah.
And then you really explained to me too, and I think he does too, a really good job of if you're in some kind of a simulation, you still have free will, but it's destiny and fate. It's prearranged in that you might not have an infinite number of options in front of you. The programmer might have put in 10 options, 5 options, 100 options, 1,000 options, but it's pre-programmed in the simulation how many options there are, and then you're given free will to pick amongst them.
Right.
You know? And the best analogy is like if somebody is doing like Fortnite and they're picking a weapon, well, maybe 7 weapons will show up, but not an infinite number of weapons. They have to choose among them, but they're using their free will to pick up one of them.
Exactly.
Which shows how free will is the same as predeterminism. They both operate in the same place. And that's an oxymoron. That's a statement that is supposed to contradict itself and be a paradox, which means they both cannot exist at the same place in the same time. But we just showed how they can.
Right.
You know?
I actually watched this atheist. I wish I could remember his name, but he was, if you want to find him, I think his talk was called something like Why There's No Free Will or something along those lines. So he's come to a lot of conclusions that I've come to, but taking a completely non-spiritual route. And I was sort of blown away that he got to, at least where I was on a few things, completely non-spiritual.
Opposite? Like just, did he conclude the opposite of you?
No, we actually agreed, but a few different spots where he kind of came to a stop, I take it a step further. So like at some point he's like, we didn't choose the family we were born into. We didn't choose this and this and this. But on a higher level, people believe that we did choose before we came into this. Like you were just explaining about being in the lobby in Fortnite right before the game starts. You get to choose what you're going to use, the outfit,
You get to choose your avatar.
Then you start the game,
female.
and you forget you got to choose all of that. You know?
Yeah.
That's part of the game that we're missing. So, like, so a few of the things we agreed on, but I took it a step further and say, well, from our point of view, no, we didn't choose it, but there is a deeper knowledge where maybe we did.
Everybody here on this channel, you're a metaphysician. And I put that in the back of the book now. You didn't see that, did you? Wait till you see. I added, on the back where it says researchers and YouTube channel producers. Mm-hmm. I just put in researchers, modern metaphysicians and YouTube channel producers. And every one of you in the chat and watching this at any point, even if you're out of the chat, is a metaphysician. And basically, those are the people who combine spirituality and science. Spirituality and science. You just science and spirituality. You just add that element of spirituality to science, or you're extremely spiritual and you add the scientific fact to it, the quantum world, right?
Right.
And then suddenly you get a whole different reality than if you were just spiritual or just scientific. It really is a much more expanded reality that we're all operating in.
Oh, thanks, Dustin. He said the ME experts. Everyone will say that soon.
Oh, well, you're all ME experts too. I think we put in the book that anyone who's human and lives on Earth in the 21st century and has seen a Mandela Effect is a Mandela Effect expert.
It's almost like you have to reach that expert status to be able to even see it, right?
Yeah, we're like, you're all experts. We're all experts at Mandela Effects, and there's nowhere in the book that says 100% what is causing it. But I would go with, I reread Vanessa's section, and I'm like more impressed with that short, concise, totally scientific section than the first time I read it, because I'm like, yeah, you know what? I think she's onto something. I think it is tied to the Schumann resonance. I think our brain waves are tied to the Schumann resonance waves. And I think the weirdness of the Schumann resonance is changing our brain waves on how we see stuff. I think it might be that simple. But not. So, you still got to consider the simulation, the hologram.
I definitely see it as being connected and everything. Yeah. But as far as, the changes seem so purposeful to me. But that's humans' tendency to.
There's a lot of purpose in some of them. And then some of them are totally random, like the Kit Kat dash. But then, or the squiggly tail. Oh, I saw Joe Rogan talking about, he's Mandela affected. He's very famous and he's a very good interviewer, right? Yeah. You like Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And it's like on Joe Rogan Tidbits. And today he's talking about what? There's a squiggly tail in the Ford. Why is there a squiggly tail in the Ford? And he brings it up and he goes, that looks stupid. Who put the squiggle there? And then
Like, what are you talking about, man? It's always been there.
I don't, thank God he took it one step further where a lot of channels don't take it further, but we do in our community. He looked it up and he looked up the history of it because when he goes, when did they add that squiggle? And when he realized it had always been there, that's when he said, no, that squiggle has not always been there.
It looks like fjord. I would have thought it was an
Somebody
E as a
on the
kid.
show said fjord. They said,
As a kid, I remember
I'm
trying to
a
figure the
fjord.
F out even. I was sitting in a parking lot and I saw a Ford emblem, or it was just the oval and it had been completely worn off. It's just a silver oval with no logo on it. And as I stared at it, I saw the original in my head show up in the F. And I even remembered being a kid and I didn't know that was an F because it was strange the way it looked like a T and an F
Yeah, I
combined.
saw Dead GPKs on it. He did the Ford because he drives a lot of Fords. I think that was his trigger
Oh,
because he'd
okay,
driven
yeah.
so many Fords. And he showed me that line in one of his videos. He did it looked like not an arrow, but a flag, or I don't know. It had a
Right.
geometric shape, the F.
Sort of like a bent spike or something. It's sort of
Yeah.
carrot shaped and kind of cocked a little bit. I
Yeah.
don't know.
So anyway, I was like, yay. Joe Rogan's Mandela affected, and he's not making a big deal of it. So imagine how many famous people are Mandela affected who haven't even mentioned it or said it. It just hasn't come up.
Well, man, I was seeing the changes before I knew what it was even because I don't know, so many
Yeah,
that
me
like
too.
after the fact, I'm like, oh, I totally noticed. Let's see, the Now or Later one I noticed. There was quite a few that I noticed, store ones. I think J.C. Penney. I was like, what the heck happened? Why did they,
And you
you
just
know?
let it go. You thought it was your memory. I did that with Nelson
No,
Mandela.
I knew it had changed, but I thought maybe they got sued by somebody and had to change the name or something. I didn't. You just the
Did you
Volkswagen
ever see them and blame it
Volkswagen.
on bad memory? I did. Nelson Mandela firmly died. I went out to interview him in South Africa as a journalist, and he firmly died in 1986 or 87. I think it was 87. And I was working in news at the time. And I'm living in London, and suddenly he shows up as the prime minister, president of South Africa. I'm like, what? So, then I thought my memory was just like, oh my
Yeah.
God, lock me up and throw the key away, because how can you invent somebody's death? So
Right.
then the steering wheel with the Volkswagen logo changed. And I was like, what's going on here? That made me do the research to find out it had a name. But that's
Yeah.
between 1995 and 2016. That's a long time going without a name for it.
It really is. So
Had
you
I
saw
found
that,
Cynthia Sue, I would have a name, Reality Shifter. I'd be like, oh, I'm a reality shifter.
right? So okay, so at the time that you saw the Volkswagen logo change, did you know it didn't exist the other way? Well, you saw a change on your steering wheel and you
Yeah.
knew it hadn't
I'm
been
like,
like that.
this
So
is impossible. I've been driving this Volkswagen going, wow, this is really stupid. I can't see where the V and the W begins and ends. They should put a line through it or a dash or something. And then 4 years later, that was 2012. And then by 2016, it had so many engine problems. I had to trade it in and get a Honda CRV, which is for me a little bit more reliable. And the dash was there. And I was like, did I do that? Did my mind put the dash in the logo on my steering wheel? I was really freaked out.
see,
I
and
was like,
that's a really good example for me, the whole Volkswagen logo, because I remembered it my whole life and never knowing it was a V or a V and a W together until they added that line. You realized it before and
I'm
thought
like,
they should
all
add
right,
that
there's a
line in
V
there.
in there. I can see where does the W go? Okay, I see the W, but boy, it's
Right.
hard to see. It's hard to see in a continuous piece of metal.
Mm-hmm.
But then everybody else, you guys, I'm not saying I created the Volkswagen
Right.
Mandela effect
It
all by
does feel
myself.
that way sometimes, though, doesn't it? You're
It
like,
felt
did I
that
do
way. Did
that?
I like you with the thinker? I'm like, did I do that? But how many other millions of Volkswagen drivers were on the road with the same symbol on their steering wheel thinking the same thing as me? Why don't they put a break in between the V and the W? There could have been 1 million of us or 100 million of us thinking that worldwide. And at some point, the 100th monkey stepped in, that little effect, and it
Yeah.
changed it for everybody.
And here I am sitting in traffic looking at that logo behind somebody on their car and thinking, wow, I'm so glad they added that line in there. Now I know it's a V and a W and never thought anything else of it.
And
I
did you
didn't
look it up
realize
and go,
older.
what date did they add the line? No,
Now,
No,
if I'd seen an old VW bus and saw it, I would have been like, wait a minute, why is
like
that
Back to the
old?
Future. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
because it's in there. The
Something like
brake is
that.
in there, and it's an East of me.
All right.
But it's not
J.C.
in.
Penney, all in that same scene. It's got the
Yes, and J.C.
Volkswagen and the
Penney all in
J.C.
that
Penney in
same
the
scene.
background.
And I wonder if the actors' names got changed, because often the movies where the lines change and everything changes, then the actors wind up with weird changes of their names. Like Tom Hanks and Sally Fields are in so many Mandela affected movies.
Did his spelling change on his name?
Only Sally Fields.
Right.
Tom Hanks is still Tom Hanks. We should look him up and see.
But he's in like 3 different ones, though.
Yeah. Is he like Tom Hank now? Is he just a Hank and not a Hanks?
What if he's Hank Thomas? He's always been Hank Thomas.
It's always been Hank Thomas. My first name is Hank. Hank is a first name. I know country singers, Hank Williams, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is maybe short for Henry or something. It means something.
Yeah.
Hank must be Henry.
Well, what trips me out is, okay, this is a perfect example of why it seems like it's not just some kind of Schumann resonant shift and we perceive things differently, because you got the Superman, right? You've got the original Superman, and then you've got the replacement Superman. The first one was something Reeve. The second one was Christopher Reeves. Both of their last names swapped. So the original one now has an S on his name, and Christopher Reeves no longer has an S.
Now I get what you're saying.
So they swapped. So anybody who remembered it and thought, well, I know one was Reeve and one was Reeves, I can't remember which one, they won't see it. You see what I mean?
What was the first one's name?
I can't remember his first name.
It's the guy in the black and white television show.
Yeah. Let me see. First Superman.
To like above his waist. Yeah.
The first Superman is George Reeves.
George Reeves.
Yeah, it's
and
got
it
an
was
S on there now.
Christopher Reeve. And now
That's
it's
what it is now.
Reeves. And has George Reeves gone to George Reeve? Or is they sharing the same last?
It's George Reeves and Christopher Reeve now. Originally, it was the opposite.
See, that seems like too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence. But then in my section, I do say, because I know nothing about this, read everybody else's section on simulation theory.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to say that if it is simulated, there's no reason why God is not simulating it. Because a lot of people go, oh, it's a simulation that disproves God. I'm like, well, not really. Not if God's sitting there like writing the program. And also they say it's a simulation, it's tech, it's human tech, it's human made technology that's doing the Mandela effect. I'm like, well, why couldn't our higher selves without bodies be up there writing the code and the programming for our lower selves in matter to play? There's nothing in the theories that I've read that discounts our higher selves from being the programmers or God.
Yeah, that's kind of a huge conclusion to jump to, that there's
That's
no God if this is a simulation.
Huge. They do it though. Have you seen some of the videos?
Yeah, but I mean that almost says that there's got to be something outside of this if this is a simulation. You know what I mean? It almost points more to some kind of higher intelligence than not.
They say it is technology, human made, and some man is sitting somewhere in his basement, a teenage hacker, changing all the reality around us to freak us out. And I'm like, really? You're really going to hold on to that as a theory?
Okay, so let's assume that, let's just play it out a little bit. If you've got somebody that that can make changes to reality.
Okay, so just throw the quantum computer in the teenager's basement. Now,
right.
Tell me.
Right. Do you have somebody that is making changes that almost seem silly at times, that seem harmless, benign, just sort of attention grabbers, but nothing serious, nothing too scary, nothing too dangerous?
Curly Q on a Ford logo, dash from the Kit Kat removed.
Right. And if the traffic lights switch, they haven't for me. They've always been like they are, but
they switched for me and Vanessa,
right?
And a bunch of people in the room.
Right.
It
so
was
they could have
red top, yellow, green at the bottom, and now it's green at the top, yellow in the middle, red at the bottom.
Actually, now it's green at the bottom and red at the top.
But well, for me, growing up, it was the opposite.
Green at the top first, or it used to be green at the top, like on Vanessa's thumbnail, right?
Go, slow down, stop. Go really fast, stop. Right? Now it's flip for me, for sure. I just said it backwards.
See, that's so funny because I remember as a kid wondering why they put those backwards, like you're saying, like because it seems backwards the way it is now. It seems like, the top should be go. Like if you're pushing a controller button, you're hitting up to go forward, right? So it seems like
That's the way it used to be. Isn't red at the top now?
right. But here's the other thing: if you look at, and I'm
It's like you have to look from the bottom up instead of from the top down.
well, I'm wondering. This is what I'm kind of wondering because I used to wonder why it was backwards, and then I realized that anything that's sort of above ground points down. It always points at the horizon, at the vanishing point of the road. So if the sign is above, then the arrow saying this lane and all that point down. The green is down; it's pointing down like you're going that way, right? If the lights were on the ground or the arrows on the ground, then it's going to point up towards the horizon. So they're always, whatever it is, always points towards the horizon. And I realized that as a kid with the arrows, that like if you're at a merge thing, you'll see like the arrows are going this way, but if it's on a sign above the highway, it's like this lane,
Yeah.
they're pointing downward, and that's how the traffic light is.
Does it make sense to you then, the way they're
I
doing
remember it made sense as a kid that everything seemed to like, point towards the horizon.
Well, go back to the
I
kid
was a
with a
weird
quantum
kid,
computer in his basement
right?
and tell me how that discounts the possibility of either a higher source, God, or our higher selves programming the reality matter around us. It's really hard to get from that to know God, don't you think?
Yeah, and I have a problem getting to a boy on a quantum computer in his basement in this reality. So
And
I
it could
feel
be a
like,
girl. We're not going to be sexist here. It could be a brilliant genius teenage girl sitting on a quantum computer. She's
but
put
not in
together.
this reality. I don't feel like, one of my kids could be in the other room on a quantum computer doing this. It would
Well,
have to be outside of the simulation. So some kid has created this program that we call our reality with all of us in it. It's on his computer. That's the only way I see a kid in his
okay,
computer.
let's move to that
Like,
video. There's a video that's like 3 years old that has like 500,000 or a million views that says exactly that scenario, that they were contacted by email by the guy on a spaceship outside of our dimensional reality who is programming our reality to keep changing and flipping and flopping around us. Do you remember that one? It's really popular.
that was one of the whistleblower theories?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's
No, I
called the
don't remember.
whistleblower video. It's like, guys, whistleblower. It tells us who's creating the Mandela Effect. So, it's got like a million views and it's
Are you talking about the one that's it says there was one out of 24 that broke away from the group and he's gone
I
rogue?
believe so, yes, because there's like
Okay.
more than one video on it. And
And
he's
that's so funny because when I was on with Unirock and Dark Wolf, we were talking about this very thing. So this is right in the very beginning when I was checking this
years
out.
ago, guys.
So when you look at it and you look at the parallels with some of what you read in Revelations, it appears that they try. And I don't know. I guess nobody else caught on to this, or I never read anything about it.
Everybody
But
kind
the-
of believed it in the first like 10 seconds. And then within a month, it was like, nah, that's not a good explanation. Everybody kind of left it behind.
Right. I think it was
But
missing.
carry on why you think that is like,
But because it seemed like there was a lot of it that tied in with Revelation. So they said they didn't outright say it. They just kind of hoped you picked up on it, right? So there was these clones that live a long time. So they're really old. They're elders, right? Clones, elders. So now we got the clones because they continue to have their consciousness put in a new host. So they're elders. There's 24 elders, like in Revelation. One of them broke away and he went rogue and he's doing his own thing. He's going to mess up all the plans. So I felt like they were trying to take the parallel, talking about the 24 elders in Revelations that were,
I didn't catch that. See?
yeah, so,
Didn't catch that.
but it didn't catch on.
It didn't. But it got a heck of a lot of views, but then it just didn't catch on as a legitimate or like, what's the word? Like authentic cause of the Mandela effect. Whenever you start talking about Planet X, Nibiru, Planet 9, what else? Planet X, Nibiru, the 10th planet. They're all the same planet.
Yeah.
Now, Nibiru was coined in the Sumerian texts, right? The myths in Babylon that Sitchin, Zechariah Sitchin popularized, but most of those are translated on the Oxford University library. If you want to go in and read the whole library, they have a whole website to those. And Planet X was from when I grew up in the 70s. Very rogue scientists were saying, no, we really, really believe that there is a large planet out there that's part of our solar system that we can't see, we
Right.
can't detect it, but it's having an influence on our planets and our sun.
Mhm.
You know, big, big planet way out there. So you got Nibiru, you got Planet X.
Well, didn't they actually detect some what they call perturbations, where all of the planets move
Yes.
together? Like you
Ye-
can tell something's tugging them all
yes.
equally.
So
Yeah.
then you've got the 10th planet because, you know, Pluto's the 9th planet. We love Pluto. It has a little heart on it. Have you ever seen the little heart on Pluto? It's massive on one side of it. If those photographs are real, they might be from satellites, right? Not satellites, but, you know, those Voyagers that we sent
Right.
out.
Yeah.
So then in 2006, the Astronomical Society, don't quote me, but that's what it is for the whole world,
They
the whole.
killed Pluto,
They
basically.
killed Pluto. They said Pluto's too small to be a planet. It's an exoplanet. And I'm like, why did they do that? So I did the research and they did it, they said, because their detection is so much better now than in the 1940s when they named it a planet. Although Pluto had been mentioned like in ancient Middle Eastern texts. So,
Hmm.
like thousands of years ago, they could kind of detect Pluto, but like in the 1940s, it became official. And then in 2006, it became an exoplanet, not a planet anymore because it was too small. Because they say that the detection is so good now, they can see a whole bunch of them out there.
Hmm.
And who's to say that the other 10 aren't also planets in our solar system, or the extra 20, or the extra 100? So, in other words, they didn't want our solar system to get so full of planets that we had to have a lot of them. But
Right.
then, if you look at the Illuminati 9 spheres and the Tesla magical number nine, nine is an important number in ancient wisdom
Yeah.
and secret societies. So, that could be a reason as well.
Well, they
And they,
also said some chunks in the asteroid belt were bigger than Pluto, and then you'd have to make all of them planets or something like that, right?
yeah,
Wasn't
yeah. So they're like, okay, then they said that they detected a group out there of whatever
it? Hmm.
planets and asteroids, but asteroids don't like just hang
Hollowed
around
out
like
planets that are now spaceships, probably.
yeah, exactly, or spaceships, whatever that's out there that is tugging on the solar system, making the plane of the solar system. Here's the plane of the galaxy, go like that. It's like there's something so heavy out here, and it's either a giant planet, and then they're going, well, possibly it's a giant Earth because all galaxies and all solar systems have a giant Earth. And we think that's now taking our solar system and it's way out here, 20 times past the distance of Neptune, and it's tugging our solar system down so we point up in terms of the plane of the galaxy.
Hmm.
And then they say, well, wait a minute, that's not all, but there's something out there so big that when you get to the outer planets, it's messing up the elliptic of the outer planets versus the elliptic of the inner planets.
Right.
So,
But it increases in speed as it's like swoops in, right? As the
well,
gravity from the sun
supposedly,
increases.
you know what? That's supposedly Nemesis, our binary twin brown dwarf sun, which we can't see it out there because it's brown and it's not lighting itself up. But as it gets closer to our sun, it's going to reflect on it. We're going to see these things: Nibiru, the solar system, Nemesis.
Because they're
And
all part of the same. I guess there's
system,
Nemesis, which is the other sun, and then Nibiru is supposed to be a planet,
giant
one of the
Earth
planets that's around the sun, right?
with a bunch of other things.
Right. There's like two or three different planets circling it or something.
So
I wanted to
now,
say, Dead GPK was saying how Planet X and Nibiru were always different for him. Now, for me,
is that red Kachina, blue Kachina? I want to ask him because he does
hmm,
so much space. And by the way, these are all different theories now being put forward by NASA.
yeah,
NASA saying like maybe there's definitely something big out there tugging on us. Is it
yeah.
a whole system around a sun, or is it just a giant planet all by itself? And it won't say. NASA will not say whether it's a system or a planet, but they suspect it's a giant planet.
Is there a? I'm trying to think. I thought Zachariah Sitchin's book was the 10th planet. Is it not? Planet X. Let's
I don't
see.
know. I heard scientists talking about Planet X. Um, in our book, Vanessa Vaught does a whole section on Planet X where scientists
Oh, the
talk about
12th
it.
planet. Let's see. Oh, okay.
So it was actually scientists who have been writing. genuine scientists writing about Planet X and the 10th planet.
Yeah, Dead GPK made me realize that I think I just sort of did that in my head. I just combined them as being the same. But
Well, so does Vanessa, and so do I. And we combine them as being the same because NASA just did a press release that we put in the book,
right,
saying there is a very, very large something out there. It has to be out there. We just can't see it yet. It's not close enough to know whether it's a planet,
mm-hmm.
a binary twin sun, or a whole solar system
Mm-hmm.
that revolves around our solar system, like that. You know, like you got two solar systems, and when they get together, they really perturb earthquakes, volcanoes, and then they go out for another 26,000 years, 24,000 years. It explains everything, the precession of the equinoxes.
Mm-hmm.
It explains the magnetic pole drift, the magnetic pole flip. It explains the Schumann resonance increases. It explains everything. And NASA's saying we're putting our money on a super Earth. But it might be a sun. And it might be a whole solar system of bodies, a group of bodies.
Never a straight answer, huh?
Never a straight answer. They can't see it yet. They know where it is. They know what's being perturbed out there.
But they've even said some stuff in like the 80s, didn't they? And then like you can't find it anymore, but people remember them talking about.
No, Vanessa finds the actual scientists who in the 70s and 80s said it's out there. We can tell by perturbations in the solar system. Yeah. And NASA was like, no, it's not. Government was like, no, it's not. The Astronomical Society, no, it's not. It's like in the 70s and 80s, they didn't know how to deal with it. So they just said it's not out there. If you deny it, you don't have to deal with it. Like chemtrails, like UFOs, like anything in life. If you deny it, you don't have to deal with it. Well, now
change the name of it. UAPs now. UFOs.
Yeah. Well, now they're not denying these things anymore. They're what's the word? They're substantiating them and changing their names so they don't look like liars. They're going, well, UFOs were fake, but UAPs exist.
That's about right, isn't it?
Planet X is fake. And Nibiru is fake, and the 10th planet is fake, but Planet 9 is real.
Planet 9 out there, right?
Planet 9 is real because we just threw out poor little Pluto with the bathwater.
Right.
So by changing the name, our generation will go, you naughty little people lying to us for all that time. But the next generation who learns its history won't remember the lie because we'll all be gone. The people who knew the before and the now will eventually be gone. So in the future, it'll just be, oh, they always said UAPs were real.
You know what? It's like you can tell there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation out there. But some people, and I know because I got family members like this, they just think it's funny to put something fake out there and watch people talk about it. And so not only are you dealing with people that's purposely trying to deceive, you got people that just think it's funny to put a bunch of crap on the internet, right?
Just for fun, right?
Just for fun.
Then you've got real people who are stupidly putting crap out, and then you've got real official people who are putting crap out too. So you've got the official crap and you've got the unofficial crap, but it's not real.
And how often are there good people doing the dirty work? You know what I mean? Like they're really honestly, maybe they got some footage and they think it's real, and they're sharing it around. And because I even did that. There's this one YouTube channel, I won't mention the name, but I use their stuff, and subsequent to me using one of their videos and showing and leaving a link to there, I watch their next 5 things they put out, and they're completely CGI. It's probably somebody going to school like I did. You'd have these assignments where you have to do special effects, and you put it on YouTube because the video is much easier to share with the class if it's just posted online. And then you just make it unlisted. But I think there's some people out there that they do, a decent job. They're like, wow, that looks
It just
real.
messes everything up. It makes it harder to discern truth, but then you have to use your gnosis. You have to get that feeling in your gut that directs you. That's where you highly tune your gnosis, right? Because there's so much stuff out there. But, okay, so Tom DeLonge, Academy to the Stars, openly working with all the branches of the government on UAP disclosure.
Right.
Now being attacked by the Navy for disclosing Navy confirmation of UAPs. But does anybody remember all the umpteen hundreds of videos? I just looked one up yesterday where the Navy came out and showed pictures of UAPs and gave it to CNN and gave it to Fox News. I looked them up. They're still there. So if the Navy is like, they're really scratchy and grainy, and then they like zero in on them, and then they're like moving, bending space time in front of them, and the pilots are like the Navy pilots, with those big things where they land on them, whatever they're
Mm-hmm.
called, aircraft
Aircraft
carrier.
carriers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh my God, look how fast it's going. And then it's kind of tilting like a top as it moves the space, going 1,200 miles an hour. They're all out there. So the Navy put out the video at the end of 2016 for Fox, CNN, MSNBC, The Hill, everybody,
That was
Huffington Post,
2016.
December
Uh,
2016.
I remember that because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
there's better phone footage, cell phone footage.
Oh gosh, yeah, because it was really grainy, but that's okay because it's on radar. So of course
Yeah.
it's grainy, right? It's not a camera.
Yeah, it
And
was military grade
radar,
heat or
heat,
what do you call that?
infrared,
Infrared. Well, yeah, infrared. Thermal. I think.
thermal.
Yeah.
And of course the pilot's like,
Right.
1,200, kind of like it was a couple of weekends ago. And then now it's the Navy coming down on Tom DeLonge for releasing information on naval confirmation of UAPs. And I'm like, don't do that. Don't pretend to come down on him. He's all part of we need to release UAPs now because we want a space force.
Right.
And if we're going to fund a space force, we need to have people fear UAPs so that they want their taxes to go to do the space force thingy.
Right. Because we need to be protected.
Because we're fearful and we need protection. And then we'll go, okay, you can give up our rights and you can listen to us 24/7 because I'm so afraid of what other people are going to do to me. And then I just found out that there's a big government thing to get Facebook to stop giving access to Alexa to police departments. So basically, if the police suspect you of any crime, but they have no, what's it called to walk through your door? Subpoena. They have to
Right.
get a judge.
Search warrant. Right.
Yeah, search warrant.
Yeah, but they can enter the premises or a car or anything with probable cause. Because I've had them do that. I had like a little table in the back seat that was taken apart with little legs, and they said, "There's a leg. That's a weapon." It was a leg of a little table, but they said it was a weapon, so they searched my car. Of course, I didn't have anything, but it was just they can come up with anything. You can have a screwdriver in there. There's a weapon.
There's a weapon. Well, there's supposed to be some privacy in your own home, and then before the authorities can actually come in, they have to get a judge to agree with it and say there's probable cause. Well, now they just go. They have a deal with Amazon, and they just go click, and they just listen. Just listen to what you're doing. What are you talking about? And that's a complete invasion of privacy. It's surveillance. It's the police state that we supposedly don't live under, where you're
it's a wire, basically.
It's basically a wire being wiretapped.
Just because you put it in your house doesn't mean you're giving anybody the right to listen in.
Alexa,
but evidently we do, right? Is it the user end agreement on Alexa that you're signing your rights away when you click OK?
Yes, just like you sign your DNA away when you get your DNA tested.
Yeah.
So there is a petition. There is a movement in Washington right now to get Amazon to stop giving Alexa access to police departments for money. So they charge you for the machine. I don't know, $70. I don't know what it costs. And then they charge the police department in your city to be able to push a button and listen in on anybody, anytime, having sex, having an argument, having a bath, snoring. This is unbelievable. This is like Edward Snowden to the nth
So you got
degree.
teenagers buying a bag of weed and they're like, oh, they got drugs in there. Let's bust in it because they're listening.
But you don't need that anymore. You don't need probable cause, and you don't need a judge, and you don't need a crime. You just need to push a button. Because you can push any button just for fun. What about the guys pushing the button and the women, listening in on people? It's like, but then again, you got that whole feeling of you got to have fear. You have to have a lot of fear, and you need events to occur so that people feel so unsafe in their own home that they will allow you to just listen in on you 24/7.
Well, here's the funny thing about like the way humans are. I mean, you could see it happen across the thing, but with Alexa's a really good way to look at it, because if you check the percentage of the people who think that the Alexa is like surveilling them, it's like I think 70% believe it is, but the popularity of it, people are still buying it. So it's like They know they're being surveilled, yet they're
And
sticking in their home.
I'm like such a truth seeker. I'm a conspiracy theorist, tinfoil. I'm like, I'm never putting one of those in my home. You couldn't pay me, Amazon, to put Alexa in my home. I'm the opposite.
But then on the other hand, we know they're listening on an Android, any kind of Android phone, because you can say, "Okay, Google," and it hears that.
Like the vampire, though. You're inviting them in. Okay, they might be tapping my phone, but when I go and buy and pay for Alexa, I've gone, "Come in, vampire. Here's my door." And you know how they can't come in unless you're invited?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to invite that kind of stuff in on me.
Right, definitely.
That's amazing.
It is like that. But if you watch what was the Snowden movie? Did you see that?
I haven't yet. Is it good?
It's
Is
pretty
he still
alarming.
like Assange? I know all about Assange, but is Snowden still like living somewhere? He is.
I heard he was in Russia.
Yeah, because he can't step foot out of Russia without getting snatched up and put in front of a court.
Yeah. I know they have Assange now, but in fact, I haven't heard anything about him.
I don't think Assange is alive. I'm totally into the conspiracy that he hasn't been seen, he hasn't been heard from. They're just pretending like he's alive and in jail somewhere, right?
And they've just offed him or something?
I don't know. Either that or giving him an island, giving him, a place next to Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know. That's kind of what happened to Hitler, isn't it?
But it seems like didn't they show him actually get busted? So we saw him get arrested at the embassy, right? Because he looked real. In fact, I saw his dad responding to how he looked when he was arrested. But that was when they first.
Yeah,
that was a few months ago.
He's not been seen since. So there's no proof that he's alive, and WikiLeaks is going, please, people, please stop trying to prove that Julian's alive. Like, why would WikiLeaks do that? WikiLeaks would be going, prove he's alive. Come on, guys, we got to know whether he's okay. Is he being fed? Is he healthy? And now WikiLeaks is out there going, please stop. Please stop. Just leave it alone. Forget him. And I'm like, that's his organization. Why would it take that kind of a attitude?
They know something?
Yeah, I feel like it's not his organization anymore. I feel like it's maybe somebody else's organization.
I see what you're saying.
I don't know.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes the best sense, actually.
She's my political expert. I get my information from Metal Rabbit.
April saying, don't invite, shield up. Put a bubble gum on the mic of your Alexa.
Yeah, I used to put white tack. Do you guys know what that is? Sticky tack?
Oh, it's like double-sided tape that's kind of padded?
And it totally pulls the camera out of your, your little laptop screen.
Oh, you can actually stick it on there and pull out the camera?
It actually, over years of use, just pulls it out so that your camera doesn't work at all anymore.
You just hit it with a rock.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I got to come up with something else. Actually, I don't come up with anything else, but occasionally my camera goes, so-and-so is watching, you just get you won't be online. You won't be on, well, I guess you're always online on Wi-Fi, but you won't be on Hangouts. You won't be activating your camera in any way. And suddenly you'll get a message saying that your camera is activated, and I just flip it off. I'm sorry. I just flipped everybody off. I'm like, I don't even run for the blue tack and the white tack anymore. I just flip them off. I give them the bird. I'm like, okay, if you're watching.
That's funny. Yeah,
I got like my nose or something,
Right. There you go, NSA. Enjoy that. There you go.
Oh,
so
God.
I wanted to go back to before because there was another whistleblower theory going around.
Which one?
Around with the Mandela Effect. So we mentioned the one about the 24 elders, and
we mentioned the one about the basement, the simulation, and we mentioned the 24 elders in a spaceship out of our dimension messing with us.
Exactly. But then there was one.
There's CERN. There's always the CERN scientists are like going.
Well, there was one that said that there was a computer named Alice that had destroyed the world and put us all into a consciousness.
Remember that one? That one went with We All Died in 2012.
Exactly. That's I think where his channel kind of came from, that idea.
Yeah. And
what's
now
his name again?
SMQAI.
SMQAI. That's right.
So far beyond that now, so he just uses that as like a reference to the older videos, and like he can't because he got hit so hard with that on YouTube for fake news. So he's like, dang, even though I don't believe it anymore and everybody knows that I'm like past that, I can't even like let that show anywhere without risking being completely taken down. But I mean, you had David Wilcock on 2012. You had the Mayan calendar on 2012. You had the black hole, the mini black hole that the Hadron Collider might cause. But then I looked up the date when they were actually finding the God particle. That was kind of January 2013. But do you think they were actually firing it up and using it at the end of 2012? Actual scientists said before they fired it up, there is a very, 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 very slight chance that doing this will create a mini black hole in Switzerland, which will destroy the entire planet. And they fired it up anyway.
They figured, nobody ever know.
They've decided it's worth it. Now, would you and I have done that? I mean, if we were standing there with the switch, would we go, oh, come on, let's see. We're not going to have a mini black hole. Let's do it.
I don't know. They did it. Anytime somebody else does it, I say, well, if I was in that same position, I'd probably do the same thing. So I don't really know.
Even though there's a tiny bit of risk that you'd blow up everybody and everything that you love. Every animal, every child, your grandson.
You're forgetting the important part. At the same time you destroy everything, you destroy the evidence that you did it too. So everybody.
Oh my God! So you're free and clear, and everybody's a soul that lives forever. So we know that we're not killing souls, but to take that kind of a risk and push that button with the tiny wee little chance that you'll create a black hole, no, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do that. I think of all the children and all the animals and say, you know what? They're too innocent for me to take their lives away. Mm-hmm. Even though they'll live forever and their souls will survive and they'll probably get reincarnated on a nearby planet and a nearby dimension with a nearby kind of similar timeline, I still wouldn't push the button.
Right.
I wouldn't wipe out everything.
Oh, Ronnie's saying, let's meditate for truth to be irrepressible. Irrepressible. Sorry, my eyes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Irrepressible. I can't say the word.
Irrepressible, yeah.
Irrepressible. I'm not going to say that word in the meditation. I still haven't said it right. I keep wanting to say irreplaceable.
Right, yeah. That's what I kept.
Pressible.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't repress it. You can't hide it any longer. What was whispered in the inner rooms will be shouted from the rooftops.
Yeah, I like that. Is that biblical?
Yeah.
It's so much fun talking to you guys about this stuff. I mean, sometimes we go down dark rabbit holes, but we never feel stuck and sad and desperate. We always climb back out.
Well, what did you think? Did you hear my opening statement last night about the whole idea that it's hard to wrap your head around the fact that people would do what we do here and agree to do this? But, you know, if you set up this scenario that's just like this.
But you know that. You and I have these lovely debates off air. And I'm like, okay, I know the Buddhic path is the easy path. It's the swimming downstream instead of upstream. It's the middle ground. And it's saying the darkness allows the light. Okay? And I get that. But when I see the darkness, and if it involves innocence, a child or an animal, I have to step in and say, no, not on my dime, not in my eyes, my heart, and my ears. And actually, according to that theory, I should just be going, oh, you're just playing a role. Thank you. You're really, thank you for your service. You're torturing those animals before we eat them as a service to us. And I'm like, no, I can't go that route. I can't. I'm too much like of a warrior inside of peace and love. A love warrior, a peace warrior that says we can do better. We can change. And if I keep looking away, nobody's going to change anything. But if I say, don't do that to those animals, then maybe they'll change their ways. But what right have I got to change anybody's ways? That's not my right.
Right.
It's not my free will to change their free will. If they want to go out and torture animals, of course I got to let them. I can't do that. I can't go down that road. That's where I have trouble being human. How about you?
Well, I don't know. I think I totally agree with the fact that, it's two different perspectives. So within the game, you have to play the game. So that doesn't change the fact whether it's a simulation or not. You still have to play the game, right? So
okay, but here's another one. Mm-hmm. What if the game is that a handful of people are creating fear so that they can take rights away to control you, control your children and your grandchildren more? Do you look away and go, oh, that's fine, that's part of the game, let's just let it happen? So that in your lifetime, maybe you can't say certain things, but in your children's lifetime, they won't be able to go certain places. The rights will keep getting taken away, because nobody's standing up and saying, don't do that.
All right.
You know what I mean? How would you respond to that then? Because by looking away, you allow it to grow.
Right, but I think that's looking at it like, everyone's going to do what you do. So I mean, if there's like, if you don't, okay, so most people will see the injustice, complain about it, get angry about it, but they don't do any petitioning. They don't go and picket. They don't do anything. They just sit there and they resonate in anger and fear or whatever. But so it's really no different. What they ended up doing is no different than turning and looking the other way.
But they got angry, lowered their vibration.
Exactly. They were actually worse off for paying attention because they did nothing about it than as if they would have just stuck their head in the sand, for instance. Right? So if you're going to be inactive either way.
Simple. Next door, you see evidence that the adults are abusing sexually and physically a child. You go, that's not my... That's not
No. But that's part of the game. I mean, you have to call and report them and tell the police what you saw.
They're giving the darkness so that you can see the light. You see what I mean? You can't we all struggle with this. We all struggle with it here. And maybe that's the final level.
I think what you're saying is a big difference, because you're talking about a neighbor that is in your sphere of influence. You can actually go and call the cops and get the police over there, tell them what you saw. But if you're talking about a hurricane hitting Florida, I'm not even down there.
Remember,
or the elite, or the the politics.
Do it on the communal scale, but not okay to do it on the individual scale. You see, why would one be okay and not the other? If you say it's okay for our government to take our rights away, that's none of my business, and whatever they do is part of a service to us to shine the light. They're doing everything so dark that we can see the light. Well, that would be true of a child being abused or an animal being tortured in front of you. You'd have to say, no, they're doing me a service. That is showing me darkness so that I can appreciate the light. It's like, where do you draw that line? Ethically.
Well, I think as long as you're in the game, you have a responsibility to play it. So if your neighbor was abusing their child, that wouldn't be within my sphere of influence. But if my neighbor was, then that would. So if you're thinking about in terms of...
Your government is abusing children. Like the Jeffrey Epstein thing. What if your government is doing it?
What can you do about it? Give me just a scenario of what you could possibly do about it besides maybe meditate or pray. Or
if a neighbor was doing it, but nobody feels any power in the larger community, they feel powerless. Mm-hmm. So they look away, and then they go, I don't even want to look at that anymore because it brings my vibration down. It makes me feel sad.
Well, I mean, all you can do is know that it's there. If you can't do anything about it, then dwelling on it. I always tell people, get convinced that it's happening and know that it's happening, and then move on. Because
slavery, if there's nothing you can do about it, then every white person would own a slave in this country right now, because there's nothing you can do about that. That's them. That's the rich people. That's the plantation owners. Somehow, we little peons that are in the numbers change what the few are doing when it comes to slavery, putting kids in mines, women not being allowed to vote. Mm-hmm. Somehow we do affect change on the grander scale. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying, well, we can't affect anything on the big scale, we can only affect in our house, in our street.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And I don't know how. I don't have any of the answers.
I think it really depends on what you want, what sandbox you want to play in. So, for instance, if I really wanted to be proactive and go out and petition and do pickets, which I think, that's an important role, but I don't feel like it's my role.
Or
like what you're right, or what you're saying to sort of, well, they're abusing people, they're taking advantage of people. I should be doing something about that. If I don't do something about it, then the next generation is going to lose all their rights and privileges and all this. But that's assuming everybody does what you do. So whether you might feel like your calling is medical, for instance, And just because you decide to go and work in the medical field doesn't mean that no one's going to do this other job that you're saying needs to be done. So I'm not saying a job doesn't need to be done. I'm just saying there's other people to do it if your job is something else. But this is my job here, basically. You know?
The hero's journey, the Holocaust. It's like we really admire and celebrate people who put their life at risk to hide Jews and transport them into other countries at the risk of their own lives, which many people got caught and were put in concentration camps because they were aiding and abetting. And we go,
like
wow.
The Underground Railroad here in the States.
Yes, like the Underground Railroad for slaves, getting them up into the North where they could live and be free. And we're like, wow, we so appreciate them. They were so brave. Those are the ones who didn't look away. Those are the ones who saw more powerful people doing something that they couldn't stop, but they found a way. And then eventually enough people who were powerless found their power and got the powerful people to stop doing it. But I don't know at what point you turn from affecting the whole. I don't know how many of us it takes for us to do away with Jeffrey Epstein's forever. So that's not even allowed. It couldn't possibly happen because we've got the right checks and balances in place that can't happen. I don't know.
I kind of feel like, you know, as people are in place in different situations, whether it's the Holocaust or the Underground Railroad, if I had like a barn or a farm and it just so happened I was in the path of the Underground Railroad, then that would sort of be where I step in and say, sure, I'll hide you in my cellar. Make sure you let everybody know. Let's be careful.
These people who did that actually traveled great distances to do it. It wasn't because it was on their doorstep and it was easy. They actually said, this upsets me so much that I can't live here and be human without doing something to change it. And they would go to the borders between the North and the South, and they would talk to the farmers and set up the transportation. People don't do it because it's easy and it's on their doorstep. They do it because they're so passionately moved by it that they are willing to give their life to make that different.
Right. Absolutely. But this is one of those instances where you can kind of give it kind of go extreme with it. So, I mean, it might not have been on their doorstep, but it was in their sphere of influence. So somebody in Europe didn't help with the Underground Railroad because they were just too far away. So when you really take it to an extreme, you can see how it was on their doorstep, even if it really wasn't on their doorstep.
Like if they went from Chicago, where there was a huge movement with Uncle Tom's Cabin, with that book, big, they would go down and they would go into Virginia and they would go, into the Carolinas and help with the Underground, the movement to get them safely out. I don't know. This is personal to each person. And it's that question in life that everybody has to decide as they go along, moment to moment to moment, whether they act or not. Do I act on this or not?
And I think that's one of the things you pointed out. You were talking about having that passion to do something about it. And I feel like if you're somebody like that and you feel that drive and that passion to be part of a movement, I'd say that's your heart, to follow your heart. But it's not going to be for everybody, No.
But at some point, everybody wins and everybody gets involved. Like they see these women tying themselves to carriages and running in front of racehorses and dying for the vote. And they're like, I want the women's vote too. And it's men and it's women and it's everybody. And then finally the people in charge go, all right, you can have the vote. Okay, slavery is illegal. Okay, kids don't have to work in mines. Eventually, what I'm saying is the power is in the people. It always has been. The people affect the change. It's never come from the top down. We've never had the rulers in Greece and Egypt and Rome that said, you know what? I don't like being this rich. I'm going to give it all away. Maybe Jesus did, and that was it. Maybe Buddha did. Buddha was very rich as a person before he became the Buddha. So these special people do that, but not on a regular basis. So the power of change is always at the base. It's always at the bottom. It's with the people.
And that's why we've been stuck here, because you need this grassroots effort where everyone wakes up and everyone decides not to consent to what's going on. I mean, I can decide not to consent all I want.
I don't consent. You don't consent. You don't consent. Nobody in this community consents to anything.
But I feel like once you get the 100th monkey effect will happen. People are
Yeah.
like, well, I don't consent either. And then you'll see this sort of shift in the way things
And
work,
people
I feel like. But
they go, don't feel bad, because if you feel bad, you'll perpetuate the bad. You need to feel good. So don't look at what's bad, only look at what's good. And then when everybody feels good, it'll shift. And you'll shift away from the reality of bad, darkness, into the reality of good. And then there's some of us going, okay, I'm trying, I'm happy, happy, happy. And then something happens and you're like, what's going on there? Now my level is down and I'm helping the bad. But everybody sits there and goes, well, wait a minute, should I really be looking away? Does that make it go away? Like, they have this theory that if you don't know about it, it can't hurt you. Okay, a lot of people are saved physically by not accepting their doctor's diagnosis that they're going to die. They just don't believe it and they heal. Other people who never got tests or scans die of diseases within weeks. I actually know of some because they never knew they had it. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm getting contradictory information fed into my brain. Look away so that only good can happen. And then if you don't look at it, it will consume you. You know what I mean? I'm getting both messages. There are examples of both happening here. So I'm like, okay, what are the rules, guys?
what are we missing? We're missing.
What are we missing here?
We're missing the thoughts going through the person's head. And I can tell you from my own experience, before my awakening, I was definitely on the road to having like a tracheotomy and all this stuff. I was so worried about it. I was having dreams about going to the doctor and the nurse like looking down my throat and like freaking out and the doctor being like, oh, that's bad. I mean, actually, that's like I was resonating in that. And I know I was bringing it about into my reality. But when I sort of woke up and realized that your thoughts are everything,
And your feelings
shifted,
are everything.
I shifted my thinking, you know what I mean? And I can already tell by the way I feel that that's not the path I'm on anymore, you know?
I know. And we're all sitting here going, okay, we're keeping our resonance high. But with you and me, one of us or the other will always bring up a real meaty topic, a real, like, what's the word? Quandary, contention, paradox.
Yeah.
And we don't like ignore those. We tackle them, which is really interesting because it never feels bad to tackle everything. Life is on the table. Humanity's on the table. Spirituality's on the table. Everything is here for us to explore, think about, and discuss.
Well, I mean, you can really see just with us in our conversation and with the group here that's with us. We like look at it, you know, the whole Doors canon. We're in the classroom, we're in the school. We look at things like that. What can we learn from this? What, you know, and then once you remove the victim mentality and the fear,
No victims
then it's
here.
all of a sudden, it's like, what can we learn from this? Where are we headed?
And what can we do
Things look
differently? What can I do differently tomorrow, Shane,
Right.
to make my life better and my family's life better and the whole world better? Is there anything I can do tomorrow that will make this earth a better place?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, gosh, if everybody woke up every day saying that, what kind of a world would we live in?
How good can it get?
How good can it get? Cynthia Sue Larson. I don't have the answers, and it's something I struggle with. Being human is, I know Ronnie struggles with this too, because sometimes we email each other back and forth, and it's like, or we chat long in the comments on videos, and we're like, you know, it feels good to look away, but sometimes looking away isn't the best answer. But then sometimes looking at it is not the best action, because that just brings you down and it down, and you're not doing anything about it, but getting it to feel worse.
Exactly.
There's no answer. There's no one rule. It's a moment to moment thing.
I think really the only way I've been able to deal with it is to sort of to rise above it and not look at things in terms of good and bad, but in terms of opportunities. I mean, something that's considered a problem can be looked at as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to experience something new. It might be fearful at first, but it's you know it's going to lead to growth. Just like going to a new school can be fearful. You're like, I got to meet all these new people and teachers, and and am I going to find my way around?
Don't know where the classroom is.
Will I find my locker? I mean, you got all these fears and worries about how it's
I
going
have
to play
dreams
out.
about that. I still dream about going to high school and going, I don't know where my classroom is. And I'm like 58 and I'm having that dream.
But I think it's like that when we sit and we discuss these things. It's in terms of more of a classroom, like we're in a lab or a lab partner, right? And we're discussing life and the challenges that come our way.
I wish I knew. And I'm like, well, if I don't know, I'm probably going to have to keep coming back until I figure it out, you know? So can you guys tell me what the answer is? I can like speed up my ascension a little bit, you know?
Well, what helps me with trust, and I know I've said it before, but is that I've made it where I am right now out of complete ignorance, you know?
But love, you're a loving person. You're a kind person. You have this heart. So you got here out of love, out of just being who you are, but not knowing what you were doing.
Right. But I feel like I have a better idea now than ever. And now I realize that I don't even have to worry where I'm headed. It's just, it will unfold like it's supposed to. Just take the path of least resistance.
Well, I don't watch mainstream news anymore because it just brings me down and it makes everything negative.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't completely given up my background in politics as a news person to say it's okay, they can do whatever they want. I'm like, well, no, they really can't. I'm going to go see what they're doing now because they can't do anything. And then I see it and I'm like, oh my God, where are the blinders? Why did I look?
And you know, it's funny because we've actually done this before. We talked about the cloud busting. We're like, are they ready for this? Are they not? Is that too much to share with everybody?
Why didn't we put it in the book? Why didn't we do cloud busting in here? We should have.
But what I'm saying is we're guilty of the same thing that we say the government's guilty of by not telling us about UFOs and stuff like that. And we're doing it out of the kindness of our hearts. We're really not trying to deceive anyone. We just don't know if that's just too far out there to bring up in a conversation.
Let's tell people what it is. So Shane and I, coincidentally, I got it through Richard Bach, the book Illusions. My whole family did it in the 70s. Yeah. 70s and 80s, would sit there and concentrate on a particular cloud. Every person takes their own. And if they're fluffy, light, and closer to you, they're easier than if they're really big and really far away for some reason. And you would bust up your cloud, make it disappear, and see who did it the fastest to win. And Shane's like, oh, yeah, I do that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? How'd you learn about that? You didn't. Really-
I had no idea. No, what I would do is I could kind of see the moon through the clouds. So I would punch a hole in the clouds with my thoughts. I'm like, okay, let's see the moon clearly. And then the clouds would begin to, anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it. So basically what we're saying is we all have spidey sense or avatar skills. And we're like, do you think our group's going to think we're too weird if we talk about this? And Shane's like, no, tell them anything. It's that fear of like, well, how far can we go?
Right, before everybody's like, I think they're kind of wacko or whatever. But I was even talking about in the wintertime, my bathroom gets really cold, and I could make the steam in there swirl different ways, roll different ways. And I kept doing it over and over again, like, well, let's make it spin clockwise, counterclockwise. And I keep doing that. And you can affect it just by your thoughts. And it's almost instant, It's
and you can take that sticky tack and you can take a pendulum and you can put it up in a doorway and you can stand within like 6 inches of it and don't breathe on it, like,
Right.
And you can work on it. It's so hard and it takes so long, and you can make that pendulum move just with your thoughts.
I bet if you use some sort of magnetic or metal object on the bottom, you could probably affect it better.
Maybe that would be better than
putting EMFs out.
Yeah, a stone. But these are all spidey skills and superhero skills and avatar skills. And I think we need to work more on those and start talking more about them. Mm-hmm. And I have like this thing that I want to do. If I can come out with you, I'm still trying for Dark Wolves, Jerry, right?
Yeah.
I would like to have like a half an hour where I can demonstrate splitting auras, where people lose their strength and then replacing the auras and then letting nature replace the auras. And you can demonstrate these skills in person. You have to physically be with them to do them. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of along the lines of cloud busting.
Mm-hmm. Well, that ties in directly with what we've talked about before with random number generators and how, you can affect. They had this one card that would move randomly on a round table, and they would have the person try to make it fall off the table by pushing it one direction. Now, it was random, so it should stay pretty much in the center. But they had all these college kids doing this study, and they could use their intention to force it off one side of the table by making it go more one direction than the other, even though it was random, because we can affect things on a minute level and just enough that you can push it off the edge.
Is anybody in Chicago that we know? Terry Porkchop Gang isn't. She's in Ohio, isn't she? Because
pretty close, though. Yeah.
My sister and my nephew were in the Chicago Museum of Science and Industry, and they said that there's a section with it's all hands-on. I remember that, and they said there's this new thing where you like hold these metal things, you know, kind of like the Church of Scientology will give you 2 metal things to hold on to. It's nothing to do with them. And then there's a ball in the middle. Maybe it's on a magnet runner. And the other person sits across from you, and you just use your mind to push that ball to the other person. And she said, holy moly, her youngest son could just make it whiz right at her. And she's like, how are you doing that? How are you moving the ball so fast? And the guy running the area said, he went to them, he said, I've never seen anybody do it that fast. So he's got this real talent of focusing his mind and his heart and just really believing that he can make that ball move. And then maybe it's like somebody said with the rain, you become the rain, you become the ball. And now you're in the ball.
That's
and you
amazing.
make the ball move.
Do you think that's just part of this new generation of these
I do.
evolved kids and stuff?
Incredibly like genius level smart when it comes to science. And I think he's going to put some books out, and I'm going to help him with the editing and stuff. And his books are going to be really important to our community here because he takes the most inexplicable science and makes it simple. And he loves our book. He bought it. He's got the
special edition
with the mistakes. And he just gave us a fabulous review. So I'm like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Especially coming from somebody who understands the science.
Yeah.
Like intimately.
Same way with Cynthia. That was huge that she, you know, gave us such a nice review.
And she gave us a blurb on the back cover.
Yeah.
She made us feel loved and included. Like, okay, you know, I don't know. That was just amazing that she actually did that. Almost didn't ask her because I didn't want her to be like, oh God, I have to give these guys a recommendation. And, you know, she's a physicist.
Yeah.
You know,
we loved her to death beforehand. So it's not like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't want her to feel compelled.
No, we told her, we said, don't do this if you don't want to. But
she was more than happy to.
Yeah. I know. And that's how she is. She's very loving and very giving, and that's how you got to hear. And I guess I am too, even though I think like a journalist, and I think like a crusader, and I think like, you know, a warrior for justice, a warrior for peace, a warrior for fairness. And if there's any unfairness around me, especially with innocents, children and animals, I freak out. It's like, that's really hard for me.
Well, you know, Cynthia, she's been doing this for decades, so she's probably just happy as heck to have some people with her. Finally, you know. Finally,
people who understand her, and we have a whole community here. And I still have not found a community like ours online. Not that I really look, because you've got plenty of places and videos for us to turn up in, and then we turn up in each other's. Like we all have our own channels, so that's a pretty viewing time community. It takes a lot to get through everybody's videos.
I think that's pretty good though, because of the way we're set up it's a smaller community, but if one of us gets taken out, it will be no problem for everybody to find anybody that's really connected because they know you, they know.
Taken out, like, boom, gone from YouTube.
Right. And I've got to come back with unbiased and on the fence too, or something, you know.
We would be there. We would like know, and we'd know what to look for. Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, I got the website, but even without that.
Yeah, I've got the website too, which came in really handy for ESETI. Yeah. And now we have to develop the website for the book, right? That's the next big one.
Yeah, after we get the ebook.
Yeah, and Kindle ebook, you'll have the amended copy as soon as it goes live, which will probably be tomorrow. Might be tomorrow night.
Well, you sent me that copy, so I can start with what you sent me. But you know what? I got to actually go through there's. I can talk to you about it later. But, okay. So what was
it's a lot of work,
irrepressible.
I'm not saying that word during a meditation. I'll start to laugh.
Okay, so we're just basically truth to be revealed.
She means like you cannot hide it. You cannot repress it. Okay, I'll just say that. I'll just say truth cannot be repressed, cannot be hidden, cannot be kept down.
Okay,
anymore.
that's actually, excuse me, that was the whole reason why I brought up the incident where I said, you know, we were discussing who's ready for what, and then the government does that. So I'm wondering, like, I'm back to the putting out the fires with the water and the undesirable undesired effect of adding too much water. We had the mudslides, right?
Yeah.
So how much do we want? I mean,
And we stalled the
if they
hurricane.
spilled the beans about everything, it might freak people out, right?
This huge hurricane, and it just stood still for 24 hours, which hurricanes don't do. It was moving at zero miles an hour for 24 hours. And I'm like, was that
That looked
us?
weird on the satellite too.
Ew, I know. They
Never
were
seen
like,
anything like that.
why is it not moving? And we're like, oh, backspin it, push it away. And of course, it's pushing towards us, and it's forward spinning, and we're pushing it back. So when you get that, you stand still.
Mm-hmm.
That,
Yeah.
but I can't feel bad because our intentions are good. It's always for good. So we can only give our best intentions. We can't.
So what do you think? Do you think we can release too much? Do you think anything should be repressed?
You guys, do you think there's anything that's too much truth? I mean, we're pretty.
I think our group is fine. But
Our
I'm saying
group is fine, but what about the person who thinks, is sleeping out there and has no clue about any of this stuff?
they just won't believe it. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. I just say, let's get it out there.
Let's just wake them up.
It does feel like that, doesn't it? Yeah.
I mean, aren't we asking for the 100th monkey? So we'll just say truth is irrepressible. I'm not saying that word. Truth is not repressible.
I like that, Ronnie. She says truth for the best outcome.
Truth for the best possible outcome for
all
concerned. And why don't we ask for the 100th monkey? Why don't we ask for the 144,000, the 100th monkey, that tipping point to occur where everybody is okay with it and everybody can see it now because we've reached, what's the word? Collective. There's a word. You have to reach a certain number
to create the consensus reality or something.
Yeah.
So
the tipping.
The tipping point. Yeah. What is it?
Where it becomes true for everybody.
Nuclear. What do they call it? Mass. Critical mass. That's what.
Critical mass. You guys are throwing a lot of hard words at me for this meditation.
Well, good luck.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to remember any of them because
it'd be awesome.
I'm like tired and I've been really busy and I stayed up all night watching the Love Stream and I did a lot of, reading. I took our book to Starbucks and I sat down and got a coffee and pretended like, oh, I've just ordered this book off of Amazon. I don't know who the authors are, and I just sat there reading it because I think it was always
holding it up so people could say, "Whoa, this is awesome!"
I actually found a new Starbucks for me that's been around in my area for like 6 months that has a beautiful basket for books, and I'm like, what is that all about? Because in Europe they have that. They have it for magazines and books, and you leave one, you take one, and they even have an app that says, where has this book been? And you write a number in the book, like 6 numbers long. And then you go on the app and put the numbers in it. It might say, well, it started in a coffee house in Italy. And then it wound up in Holland. And then it wound up in London. You can see where the book's been dropped.
That's awesome. That's cool.
So I talked to the manager there and I said, oh my God, you mean you've got books that people drop off? I said, well, we've just written one. You can't have this copy because it's special. But when it's no longer special, I'm going to order a copy for you that's correct and stick it in the basket. And I don't know if somebody will pick it up and take it home forever or pick it up and pass it along. Yeah,
we could pay people to sit in Starbucks with our book all day.
There's only one. I mean, every Starbucks should have a basket of books, right?
Yeah.
And the manager, she said, oh my God, if you put your book in there, I'm definitely going to pick it up and read it. And then I'll put it back in the basket for someone else.
That's cool. So let's see. Nicola Simpson.
Nicola Simpson in Australia.
Yeah. Truth is inevitable.
Truth is inevitable.
Yeah.
Truth is real.
We want it to come out in the most beneficial way possible.
I've been up since like 1 a.m, so I have no idea how this is going to go, but we'll wing it. We'll see how it's come out.
Good luck.
Sometimes I feel punch drunk from not sleeping. I'm like, when did I wake up? 1:30 in the morning. And now it's 10 o'clock our time. We had a nice long conversation. I'm glad you challenged me on those beliefs, though. I struggle with them, and I like to get them out and hear other people's viewpoints.
Yeah.
Instead of just like sucking them in. Right. Burying them.
I think that's kind of what was shown to me when did the video about the trust, that we need the people there. We need the the people picketing, and I mean, you need everybody where they're at. Everybody's like a
Everyone's got to
pixel in this,
roll.
right? So where I don't feel like that's for me, it's not like I don't think something needs to be done or that something
It might not
isn't
be for
being
you,
done
and
about it.
it might be for me. I went
Right.
on so many demonstrations. I went with Jesse Jackson on a bus from college that broke down half the way to Washington,
Uh,
D.C. So, that was for me when I was young. It's not for me now.
yeah, my mom did that when she was young. Went to Washington.
Yeah.
And,
I was with
yeah.
I was part of the Rainbow Coalition when the rainbow meant all races. Now the rainbow means all sexualities, but back in the day, the Rainbow Coalition was all races together, men and women.
Hmm. For me, it's just awesome colors.
Yeah, it is awesome colors, and it is awesome colors.
I love rainbows. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
funny. Okay, guys, here we go. I think I know what you guys want, and I'll do my best.
You'll do perfectly.
This is the night that I've been the tiredest doing a meditation, but I don't feel bad. I wouldn't do a meditation if I felt bad because it'd be bad energy. I feel good, but I feel kind of punch drunk good. Like, I can't think of words and say words. I'm like, silly. Okay, so I will not disconnect myself. I'll just turn off the video. And here we go. I'm going to bring the microphone a little bit closer. So everybody just take a nice, deep, relaxing breath in as you close your eyes and get comfortable. Really just relax and be in the seat or standing, the space that you're in. And exhale that deep breath and let go of any tension in the muscles. Another nice, relaxing, deep breath in. Hold it as long as you like. And this time, let go of any stress, any emotional and mental stress. And finally, just take a nice, deep, relaxing breath in. Let it fill up the bottom of your lungs. Extend your tummy. Give them some oxygen down there. And exhale when you're ready. And when you're ready, start breathing in through your heart chakra and exhale through your heart chakra. And just continue to breathe in through your heart center, like Lynne McTaggart tells us, Heart Maths Institute, at a pace that suits you so it's relaxing. And when you're ready, imagine a beautiful, clear color, even the rainbow, coming in through your heart and filling up your body. And exhale that color back out of your heart and fill up your room. Now draw that color into your heart and fill up your body with that color. Let it extend out, creating kind of a protective cocoon, keeping your energy entrained with everybody's, but separate, safe, and protected. And exhale it back out and let it fill up your whole house, your whole apartment, trailer, cottage, whatever you're in. And as you continue to breathe that beautiful, clear color in, let it really clean and clear your physical body, your thinking mind, your emotional body, and let it even go as far as your spirit body. Let it really permeate all the levels of the being that is you. And when you exhale it out, exhale it with love into your environment. So all the animals and children and people who come in and out of your house, in and out of your home, can really benefit from that clearing, cleaning color. And now send a grounding cord down to the center of the earth if you haven't done it already, from the root of your chakra all the way down through all the different levels. Let it really take your time. Let it go down slowly through all the levels or fast. And when it reaches the heart of the earth, let it spread out in all directions so that you're firmly grounded and protected. Now we're all going to hold hands. It's always good to imagine doing something that you love doing or being in a beautiful place, because that changes your emotional context while you're intending and meditating. So tonight, Let's just imagine being in a beautiful place. It can be real or it can be imaginary. Go ahead and look at the details. What colors do you see? What are you looking at? Is it water, rock, trees? And what does it sound like? What are you hearing in this beautiful place in nature? What does it smell like? Can you smell flowers? Can you smell the sea salt? Can you smell the earth and the worms being in a forest, on a mountain? Or is there snow? Can you hear crisp, clean snow around you? Build up that beautiful place and just relax into it, knowing that you are protected and you are loved. And when you're ready, we're going to intend and meditate together tonight that truth will out. That truth is so important and beautiful and so true and real in a reality that is shifting and changing and not always real or not what it seems. That truth is so strong that it comes out wherever and whenever it is safe to do so, so that we have the best possible outcome for all concerned. That means people who are happily asleep and have no idea about the Mandela Effect or political shenanigans or things around us and our food and our air and our water, that they can come to see the truth of their own reality in a way that they can handle and that they can cope with, in a way that empowers them to have more control over their environment, their world, their reality. And let's also imagine that for ourselves, because we call ourselves the awake, and we say we can see the truth, we have gnosis, we can feel the truth. But let's ask that our internal gnosis can really detect not only the truth for us, but the direction that we should be going in when we're not sure, when we're a little bit uncertain of what's up, what's down, what's left, what's right, and what should I do? Where should I go? How should I view this? Let's really ask that our truth detectors internally are set fully free and clear and clean at a really high level of frequency and an operational level. And let's use this truth that we have to spread the love and the joy and to help others realize that at any point, there's no reason to allow fear or sadness to cloud your sense of being, to always feel positive, always feel loving, always feel safe wherever we go and whatever we see and whatever we think about. That we have that sense of knowledge and understanding that makes our personal power shine, and that we help others who haven't yet gotten there with either the truth or their personal power. We help them to let go of the fear, let go of the sadness or disappointment, and really step forward in your joy and your love and your personal power, so that collectively we actually reach critical mass and achieve the 100th monkey effect, so that the joy and the love that we spread, we see it all around us in the larger world too. And now everybody is working from a sense of compassion and cooperation. Not just us in our little community, but the whole world around us is reflecting that compassion and cooperation that we feel inside. And let's just go silent now for 3 minutes so we can really feel this happening and we can really appreciate it. So now, before you open your eyes, just know that not only will you see and feel the truth around you, but you will be shining your light so brightly that anyone who comes in contact with you will feel that. And they too will begin to see the reality and the beauty of the truth around them with complete confidence. So now start to open your eyes and move around, maybe stretch your neck a little, move your shoulders, your arms, your legs, and let your grounding cord go back into the earth where it's absorbed, or keep yourself grounded, moving forward.
Beautiful.
I got really dizzy. I was like, in that silent period, I was like, I had to open my eyes because I thought I was going to fall off my chair. I was like,
Really
what?
powerful, huh? I was getting, that's funny because sometimes I'll just kind of let the images come, and I was getting like, news bulletins and reports, of all this information coming out. It would be beautiful, wouldn't it? Like every channel talking about something, and it's just all
Kind of
just flooding
happening.
out. That would be
Think about
awesome,
it. It's
wouldn't it?
like suddenly we're getting UFO disclosure and we're getting images and vortexes with hands and ankles disappearing. It's like the truth is coming out all around us. Like maybe we're sucking it out of the ethers.
Another thing that came to me during the moment of silence was back to the dilemma we were discussing about, what do we focus on or whatever. And I was kind of given this picture of, in Christianity, we talk about the body of Christ and how the eyes shouldn't feel bad for not hearing and the ears shouldn't feel bad for not seeing, that we all have our part we're
Yep.
doing and we're working together as a unit. It might not feel like that. I mean, it might feel like
It's
the legs
different.
are standing around while the arms are doing the shoveling the crap at
Yeah.
times, but the legs need to be there to hold the body in
And the
place.
arms might be going, hey, legs, why do you have such an easy job
Right.
right now?
Exactly. And then the eyes are seeing what needs to be shoveled. The ears are, doing what they're doing or whatever. So everything's got their own little place. So we shouldn't feel bad as long as if you're the hand and you're doing the work of the hand, don't feel bad for not doing the work of the eyes or the ears.
Exactly. That helps me because that allows me to be, and it allows me to let other people be,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that somehow we'll get there. It doesn't
And
mean
you
we
don't have
all
to
have
take
to
the
do the same
responsibility.
thing. Right.
Right. Because a lot of us carry that responsibility, but it's impossible outside of cloning ourselves into a million people to do everything that we want to do, right?
And then a lot of us can't be responsible for others. And then we get mad at them. We're like, oh, God, humans suck. They don't do anything that I want them to do. You know
Right.
what I mean? And we can't do that either.
We want to impose our will and our ego, basically saying that we know what's best. You need to do it. We
Yeah, you
say,
need to do what I say, the
Yeah.
way I do it. Yeah, it's like, and then you don't want to have your vibration so low by being in that dark night of the soul because
Yeah.
you're not accepting of the world, the earth, humanity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's
So,
interesting. It's interesting to be woke. And when you're woken up, go, well, now what do I do? How am I supposed to feel about this? You
because you
know?
can feel overwhelmed. It's kind of like you got this house
Yeah.
and all the rooms are dirty, and you're like, where do I start? And it's like, there's 5 people here. Let's all take a room, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's more like
It's
that,
like,
I
where do I
think.
start when you say, well, this is happening in the air and this is happening to food and this is happening to medicine? Oh my God, dig me a hole somewhere where I can like not even look at it and just explore rabbit holes. Tartaria. I'm just going to focus on Tartaria for a
And
while.
mud floods,
Mud
yeah.
floods. I'm going to do mud floods. Yeah, it is that overwhelming feeling of like too
Yeah.
much information.
But it
Yeah.
can lead to, if you're feeling so overwhelmed, it can lead to inactivity. So you end up not doing any of the things. So I think it's better if you focus on where your heart is, where that
Focus on one
desire
thing
is. Yeah.
instead of 10 things that make you completely inactive. Like
Mm-hmm.
not even willing to get out of bed because you're so upset about what you're getting into. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. This is like, it's
And
good.
every part is important. So I'm not downing like people that go out
No,
and
no.
have a petition signed or something. We need people that do that.
Yeah.
I just don't feel that drive myself. But if you do,
That's not
definitely
you.
do that.
It's
Yeah.
not for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And to allow everybody else to see it the way they see it and be it the way they want to be it, and
Mm-hmm.
not prejudge everybody and say you have to be it exactly the same way I am doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I think we solved that tonight for sure.
That's helpful anyway.
It is. It really
Because we
helps.
can't do everything, but we want to, of course.
Yeah.
But together we can, because we're a full
Yeah,
body,
and then
you
do
know?
what you can do. Do what you can,
Hmm.
and don't do more, and don't expect yourself to do more than you can. But
Hmm.
then don't expect other people to do more than they can as well. And
Right.
somehow we get there. Somehow the collective is moving up. It's leveling up. It's leveling up. It's getting better. It's getting better. It's getting
Right.
fairer.
Hmm.
As long
So
as
we're
we're
getting there. It's just
moving in
not
the right
nearly as
direction.
fast as we like.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be instant. I mean, what kind of a game would that be if it was over instantaneously? You're in, you're
Right.
out. That was it. It's over. Was that fun? Was that fun for you?
I'm
Instant.
cool now because, once I realize it's not, I don't have to look forward to some future thing to be happy. I can be happy now. That makes a huge difference in just your
Yeah.
outlook. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's so important. It's like if you're sitting there waiting every day for the event, then you could really look back and go, well, I wasted all that time not enjoying what was around me. So it's really
Right.
important to really love where you are and what you're doing, and then let that happen on its own time. Let that sort itself out.
And that's sort of where, and the way you mentioned that is exactly how it played out for me. I thought back at when I was in a band. At that time, it was like carrying amps. It sucked. It just sucked. While I was in it. But looking back, like, wow, that was so fun going out and playing and doing all this stuff. And I wasn't enjoying it at the time because
That's
I was
interesting.
focused on the little things.
Psychologically, they say that people really look back on their hard times nostalgically. So you got this old couple, with a nice house and a nice car and nice kids and grandkids. And they're like, do you remember those days when we had one pot in a one room apartment and we had to cook everything in that one pot? And you're like, oh, yeah, like those were the days. And of course, at the moment, you're like, dang it, I need more pots, but I need more money to buy more pots. So it's like
Right.
people get very nostalgic about the tough times. They seem to have meaning when you're at the end of your life. You really look back on those times, and you think, God, I survived it, and we watched, we still had fun, we still enjoyed ourselves, even though we didn't have everything that we have now.
Before we moved into this house a few years ago, we had lost the other house. It had gotten destroyed in a storm, so we were in a motel for like 3 or 4 months, and it was so rough with so many people. We had to hide because you could only have so many people in there. We didn't want to get 2 rooms, of course, because that would be way too expensive. So we're like going in and out in like groups, like separate, so there wasn't so many people leaving at one time. And I got the kids like ducking in the back of the minivan as we're pulling back past the office, so there ain't like 5 people in the car. But anyway, it was rough during those times. But we think back, and it was like we were all
You
crammed in
laugh.
this room together, and we had a great time. It wasn't. It
You're
wasn't
like
bad.
making me laugh, thinking the kids, get down, get down. Oh no, the
Right.
guy's in the office. Okay, let's go around the block. It makes you
We're all
laugh.
fearful we were going to get caught, and it was like stressful and all this. But when we thought back on it, really it was the label of being homeless. We
Yeah,
weren't. I mean, we had a place that we had a bed to lay in, so we weren't like on the
yeah. So
streets.
you weren't
But
like
we were
intense.
labeled homeless, and if you think of it that way, you don't have a home, then things seem bleak. But we never. I mean, it was always fine. I mean, we always had something to eat. We always had a roof over
Do
our
you think
heads.
maybe during those times your emotions get heightened so that down the road you recall them more and you laugh
Probably
about it and
so.
you really feel this love towards that time? Because the other times are a bit boring when you've got plenty of, food and a house over your head. And I'm not saying that's not a bad thing. It's not boring. It's great, but it's not as memorable.
Right.
It's normal.
That's actually why I think we don't remember dreams. I think they're just so mundane, like everyday life, that we don't remember them
Unless
until
they're
it's something
super weird.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, something weird or something traumatic or funny or scary or
Yeah, I
something.
had one of those the other night. Maybe it was last night, waking up, like sleeping from 9 to 1:30 and waking up wide awake in the middle of the night when I should be sleeping. And I woke up dreaming that my mother, who had me like when she was 40, right? Like I had my child when I was like 40. So we're older moms, had a toy boy boyfriend. And I went to see her and she was completely alive. It wasn't like I was in heaven. And I'm like, oh, nice to meet you. And she's like, yeah, that's my new boyfriend. I'm like, Mom, he's like 25. What's going on here? So that, when I woke up, really stuck with me because it made me laugh,
Right.
and it resonated. I was like, because my mom's funny. She's like, after my dad, she was like, no, I'm not going to date. I'm not going down that road again. I've done it, because she was older. She was 60. So for me to imagine her in a relationship, it was like almost like, well, she's in heaven now. So who knows? Maybe she's 25 again in heaven and she's got a new 25-year-old boyfriend up there. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's kind of
that's
cool.
funny.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
very
definitely.
memorable.
Yeah, I haven't had any dreams like that in a while, but I do love them though. There's one where my dad was giving me a hard time. I went to his house and I'm like, "How did you add on to this house?" And he's like looking at me and like waiting for me to figure it out, and like he would do when we'd play checkers, and he knew I was beat, but I was not yet privy to the fact that
Didn't
I
know.
lost. And I'm like looking, and I look up at him, and he was just looking at me, watching my wheels turn to see when I was going to figure it out. But that's what
Oh,
he was doing in this house, and it ended up being like I was in heaven visiting the mansion in heaven that he
yeah.
was in, and it looked like his earthly home with a few minor changes
You're
to it.
like, how did you do that? And
And
he's
he's
letting
just,
you figure it out.
this isn't
What
where
a
you
special
were.
person. What a great person to do that. You know,
Yeah, it was funny.
to
It's
have
funny
that
how somebody can be
patience.
passed away for so long, and then you have this dream, and it's like they're
Yeah,
not.
I do that with my husband. I'll dream of him and I'll wake up thinking he's alive. And he's been gone almost 20 years now, or something like that. No,
Yeah,
not that long. I think I'm stretching it a bit. And it makes you go, wait a minute, which reality am I in? Okay, I'm in this reality where he passed away in 2006.
right.
But for a few moments, I'm not really sure what's real. The dream that I just had,
Hmm.
or the one I'm waking up to.
What do you think?
I don't know. I like that confusion. I like being in that space where either one is possible.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like that, but I do. I'm like, oh, this is super cool because I don't really know what's real.
Hmm.
Don't you like that too?
Oh, I love that. In fact, that's the thing that kind of got me over the hump of, like, how can this be a dream when it seems so real? And I'm like, well, wait, the dream seems so real, so who's to
Yeah.
say we can't wake up from this, right?
And who's to say that the dream time isn't the reality and this is the sleeping time, like the
Yeah,
Aborigines in Australia believe
yeah.
that the wake time is the dream time and the dream time is the real time. Mm. There's some food for thought as we close
Right.
out tonight.
Definitely. Well, we'll be back next Saturday. Hopefully, have the ebook up by then. I'm thinking a couple more days on that, and
It's going to be like $7.95.
yeah,
Now, all of you who spent $14.95 and poor Nancy in Canada plus shipping, it's like $30. I wish we could send you a free ebook, but we
right,
can't. It's all through Kindle.
right.
So
But
we needed your reviews. We needed the team playing. We were number 60 in the whole category. And David Wilcock's 2 books were 84 and 71. So we even beat out like David Wilcock for
that's
24
cool.
hours. For
We actually
24
hit number
hours.
one in that category.
We hit number 1 of new releases.
The new
And we
releases.
hit number 60 in the whole category. The whole category has got like tens of thousands of books. So hitting the top 100 in a category with hundreds of thousands of books was like super cool. But being number 1 new release, that looked really good too. And then Shane's like, I'm glad you took a picture of it. I'm like, why? Is it gone? He's like, oh yeah, it was gone in 24 hours. And I was like, really?
That's cool though. It updates. So if somebody put out a book like the next day, then there's
Yeah. Yeah.
if they got a spike, we got a little spike because we
You guys
mentioned it.
gave us that spike. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you guys so
And
much
we
for
got
that. It's
pictures
awesome.
of it. So who knows, for our future marketing campaign, we could just whip out those screenshots.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Fun times.
Well, we love you guys in the chat. Thank you for being here and you guys watching this later.
Thanks,
Including
Ronnie, for
you,
the
Eileen,
suggestion.
watching the replay.
Oh,
Reading
and you, Shane. We got to thank you.
the chat. All right, so let me see. What do we have? I'm trying to think. I will be back Tuesday with Michelle, I think, and then it'd be a week from this Monday for the next Paranormal Frequencies.
Cool.
Trying to think.
Who's on?
Cisco is going to be on. Cisco, anybody that knows? Not the thong guy, but
I don't know, but if Sherry found them, they're going to be really
I
interesting.
think it's a girl actually.
Oh,
yeah.
it's a girl? She's
I
going to
think
be
so.
really interesting if
It'll
Sherry
be fun,
found
I'm
her.
sure. All right, you guys. Lots of love and light to everybody.
Love
See
you
in the
guys.
next one.
Yeah. Bye. Peace.
If you'd like to support the work I do, go to paypal.me/UOTF. Thanks.